So, hello everyone. Hey, this is Nothing Media. I'm Luchana, and I have a special guest today, Jez Alborough. Is that correct? Is that
It is correct.
all right?
Jez Alborough. Yeah.
I was
Hi,
like,
Luchana.
hi.
Did I say your name right?
Yeah,
Luchana.
perfect.
That's a
Perfect.
lovely name. Beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for accepting the invitation. Also,
My pleasure.
Mm. When I messaged you, you messaged me back that you are not quite sure if you fit in Nothing Media YouTube channel. And this is exactly uh, the question which I wanted to start with. Why do you think that you are not fit in Nothing Media?
Um, well, perhaps from what I've seen, some bits I've seen, I'm not the kind of guy who just says everything's happening and there's nothing more to say. I think if I was doing that, I would think, well, why? What are you here for? What are you doing then? What's your function? Why are you even doing this? So I don't kind of fit into that. I do have something to say for those who are interested. I do have something to share, and I had to confront that a bit because I'm not naturally someone who I am, I have been a kind of performer in the past. My background is I was spent nearly 40 years being a children's book author and illustrator. So I've done a lot of presentation within that at schools and with libraries and to kids with my books. So in some ways I have been a performer in one form. But this side of my life was off limits. I mean, nobody in my job knew about it. And it seemed to be, it didn't fit in that job. It didn't fit in that world. In one way, it didn't fit. And the way it didn't fit is I couldn't talk openly and obviously about it. People in that world are into what they're into, but they're not into this, which is fine. So I was in a role and I used whatever talents I've got to sort of fulfill that role. But a side of me was not being kind of addressed in my daily life in a way. It was siphoned off. And, that was okay. But something happened in my life that made the two worlds kind of collide. And I couldn't anymore. It seems like the bit that was hidden away that had to be my secret life burst through the public, the other life, and kind of took over. And when it did, so then I ended up doing this. When it did, I'm a writer. I write stories and children's book stories, but stories in general is my interest really. And I make music as well. And so because I have that inclination, when I had what I call the shift, it was natural for me to try and express it in a way using those talents of storytelling, of structuring. Hence, I wrote these two books, and not with any goal to be anything or do anything, but just because, an artist just wants to express themselves. And here I had something to express, and it seemed like the most impossible thing to express, but that was the challenge, and that was the joy of it in a way. So somehow I found a way to express it in my way. And I didn't know what was going to happen next. And so it's been an interesting journey since they came out. So that was 2 years ago, I think they came out. And for a while it was very quiet. And I started doing, I started an online group, but I'd never done anything like that before. And I didn't know what it was going to be like, but I knew I had to do it. And I thought, oh, must be the next step. So I did it. And ever since then, I've been learning about well, the sharing of this, which is a very different thing. There's one thing, this thing happening, and there's another thing, sharing it. Can you share it? How do you share it? How does it interact with people? What do you say? What don't you say? All of this stuff. So I've been on this fantastic learning journey with that. So I hold this sort of weekly group now, and what I share seems to be quite exclusive, not because I'm choosing it for it to be. I'm not trying to be big-headed. It's simply because not many people seem to kind of be attracted to what I'm saying, because it doesn't fit into what this is. But what is beautiful is that those who do have the readiness to hear what I'm saying and kind of work with me, something very wonderful is happening. And I'm amazed by it and grateful for it. And yeah, it's lovely. I don't know where it's going, or, you know, it's just an ongoing way that this is being shared, I guess. Yeah.
That was beautiful. You've mentioned something about the shift. Can you share something about this shift? This shift of, is it shift of perception or energetic shift, or what was like for the apparent character? Just
well, so the way I talk about this is there's different kinds of openings. So first of all, there's an opening which is, okay, everything I talk about, as you probably know by the names of my books, is about personality. So they're called Life, the series is called Life Beyond Personality. So for me, an opening is a sudden and short, probably, shift beyond the viewpoint of personality. So for example, so when I was younger, I used to, you know, like lots of people, I'm sure everyone you've interviewed, it's the same thing, but I used to have these openings. I'd maybe in a bookshop and I'd read a quote from Buddha or Lao Tzu, and suddenly, you mentioned the word energetic, something happened and something in me received it, got it, and it affected me physically and mentally. You know, I went quiet and I didn't know what it meant, but I just could feel something beautiful happening. So, and I always feel it's rather wonderful that something written, say, 2,000 years ago can still have that power. You know, a line from Lao Tzu or something, or Rumi or whoever, can hold truth in that way, in those few words. So that's just a very short opening. And then I used to have these openings that lasted, you know, a bit longer, maybe a day or half a day. And so they came into my life and they shed a light on the rest of my life, because the question arose, well, if this is true, and it obviously is true, this is my experience, what is the rest of my life about? The one that's just, you know, suffering in ways that any normal teenager suffers or has problems or whatever, in family or whatever it is. So anyway, that's what I call an opening. And then there's an awakening. You know, an awakening to me is, you know, some people use that as a way of saying that's like the final step. And for as far as I'm concerned, that's not how I see it. An awakening is an opening that's bigger than an opening. It can last a day, it could last 3 months, you know, it's big. And the effect on the person, because it's big and it's strong, is stronger and longer. And but it still ends. So I think a lot of people have an awakening experience and then go off and teach, but there's something not finished, because then they return to the personality. They return to the personality with the information and the knowledge and the understandings that came from that awakening. But they're still kind of, because they've returned to personality, they've got that orientation that is guiding them. And the worst end of that is that you get abusive gurus who know some things, but they're misusing that position and whatever knowledge they have open to. So for me, the shift, the third one is the shift, where the identification with personality drops and is finished, and there's no going back. So then still there's a lot of misunderstanding about that, as if everything's finished, and you know, that's not what I'm saying at all. But that is finished. You cannot any longer be kind of pulled into that identification with personality. I forgot what your question was now, but what was your question? What happened?
Yeah, can you share more about the shift? But
Yeah, so the shift happened. I mean, I had this breakdown in 2004, and so my everyday life. So here's my life, and here's the openings when I was young, and here's the spiritual search, and here's being with this teacher, being and that teacher, and learning this, and here's my career going pretty well, and then bang, there's this kind of moment where everything crashed to the ground. And for me, what happened, it was a very dramatic. This is not the shift, by the way. This is what led to it. My personality kind of couldn't function anymore. Well, not in any way that it did before. So as you can imagine, that was horrific. You know, everybody's walking around thinking they are this thing, and it allows them to function in the world. And I lost that functionality. So I spent quite a good few years, 6 or 7, within that world, which was, you know, I was mainly indoors. I couldn't do much. I couldn't see people, trying to work out what the hell has happened to me. But anyway, after a while, after maybe a few years, so I had an awakening. It passed, and I got to a stage where nothing, it seemed like it was going to go on forever. And there was a kind of surrender involved, because it seemed like, well, all I can do is, if it's going to go on forever, then okay, I accept. I can't. The one who thought he could do anything about it seemed to kind of to have gone. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll just try and get on with my life as it was, which was doing my picture books. So I tried to get back into that world, because I was a little bit more functional then. And I did, to an extent, but it felt like, I felt like an imposter in my life. I wasn't the same person, and it didn't feel right. And so then I kind of, in a way, that dropped me, and I dropped it as well. And not fully, but pretty much. So I was left with like, well, what's left, you know? Anyway, out of all that, somehow, somewhere, I couldn't even tell you when, this shift happened where this disidentification with personality happened. Yeah. And then I read the books. And then you find out, forever after, you find out what the hell it's all about. What was that? Well, what is living now? How does it live? What does it mean? You know, and some things you can know. See, what I deal with in my books is that there's some things you can never know, and that's what I call the great mystery. And I find, anyway, for me, like in this, that's fine. I don't need to know those things, but there's some things you can know. You know, you can know your personality, and as far as I'm concerned, the more you know your personality, the more it becomes seen through, and then the disidentification with it kind of begins. So you can know your personality, you can know its shape and its form, your particular quirks, your psychological history, your belief patterns that you're holding. You know, we all hold beliefs, and they get exposed, and you don't even know you believe them, but they were affecting your life. They were dripping into this life and making things happen. And so my books are about laying out the sort of story of it all, because it is like a story. You know, as far as I'm concerned, we come in what I call the natural state before personality is formed, and there are certain characteristics to that which I outline of being. You know, there's stillness, there's joy, there's what I call choiceless awareness, and fulfilling engagement with life. So these sort of principles are just literally taken from that original experience of life and our original relationship to life. And so when you have an opening or an awakening, you experience what that is. And then you realize most of the time you're not living that, something else is running the show. So then it's like, well, what went wrong? How did I lose that? I was that, not I had it, I was it. So this inquiry with me is about that whole story of we had it, we lost it. How did we lose it? What did we become? And then what does it mean to find it again? And how do we find it again? Now, I don't believe in practices or anything, but there is for me, what I've found anyway, and I'm learning all the time, as I say, by dealing with people, but through inquiry, through just being confronted with these questions, and if one can look honestly and with readiness at these things, something does happen, and there is a kind of opening that can happen. Now, it can only happen if someone is made in such a way that they have what I call the yearning to return to that being. So if that is there, then I think anything can happen, you know. But I'm very clear that it's not happening because of me. I'm just facilitating and sharing my joy in this, I guess. So if something does happen, and you know, things do happen, it's about just life happening to arrange with putting us two together, and somebody's ready, and I just bow down to that readiness, you know, because I think it's such a rare and beautiful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it happens when it happens, and at least here the experience is like there's nothing to do with you or with me or with anyone. It just happens out of nowhere, you could say. When you say mystery, I just love this word. Yeah. And also you mentioned that there is no need to know mystery, because you just realize that it's not possible to know this. It's a knowable mystery. Can you
That is the definition
expand
of
on
mystery,
this?
isn't it?
Yeah. Can you expand on this, on I don't know, on this, on mystery?
I missed that. Did you ask a question?
Yeah, can you expand on this, what you call mystery? Can you expand on this?
I can't really, because it's a mystery, but I can talk around it. I
Yeah,
can talk
yeah.
around it. It's living with the unknowing. It's living with what you can't know, and not deluding yourself with beliefs that you can know it, and being okay with that. You know, there's a big discussion, isn't there? I'm sure you know all this. Does consciousness come from the brain, or is it outside of it, and all of that? And I would say to that, who wants to know? Why do you need to know? I don't need to know that. I can't know that, and I don't care. What possible difference does it make to me? What possible difference? I'm still going to be sitting here having a drink or whatever, you know, and talking to you. Wherever it's coming from, it doesn't mean anything. I don't think I can say much more than that really about the mystery. It's more to do with being acclimatized with it. And that means being acclimatized with unknowing. Now, having said that, I do talk about something called the knowing. And there is something that knows things. It doesn't know the great mystery. It doesn't know the big answer. I mean, just the idea that there is a big answer is crazy, you know. But things can be known, you know, and deep things can be known. So I also bow down to that. And it seems that one outcome of this is that can happen. And just in everyone, you know, I have people in my group who suddenly will come up with a phrase or something. They say, I don't know why this came to me, and it changed my whole day. I said, bring it out, tell us, you know, and it's a wonderful phrase and it's full of power, like a quote from Buddha would have been, you know. So that's what I call the knowing, you know, and that's part of the mystery. Where does that come from? How does she know that, you know? Who constructed those words? Well, there isn't a who, it just goes back to the mystery. So in a way, the mystery is everywhere, really, when you're open to it, I would say. And it's a case of just living with it, really, and in it, and as it. And apart from that, I mean, it's all like you were saying earlier, it's just very ordinary, you know. You live what you are, or how you've been created. You know, I'm an artist, so I love to create. I like to make music and write songs, and so my joy is to do that and to share this, and that's all I do, really. Yeah. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere, but I'm also not demeaning it. I'm not saying it's not a wonderful thing and great things are happening through me sharing this, but it's not, okay, if the shift hadn't happened, you can see what can come in is I'm doing this and I'm having a fantastic effect on people. Whereas I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is, I'm just in wonder at these people, you know, and what's happening and how it's developing or not developing. Yeah. Mm. So I suppose you can tell by the way I'm talking that there's often I talk about the opposites because two things could be true at the same time. So there's the unknowing and then there's the knowing, you know. And I think what I often do when I'm sharing about this is the starting point is wherever anyone is and what's happening. Now, I would never talk with anyone about this unless they were open to it or interested. But if they are, and they have that willingness to look, then whatever's happening, whether it's somebody's feeling really sad or whatever it is, that's the starting point. And that's the way in. That's the way in, really. And sometimes it involves seeing it from different viewpoints. You know, like I said, the personality is saying this and making you believe this. But is it true outside of your personality? This person doesn't have that belief, so they don't experience that. So, but if you believe it, it's true for you until you see through the belief, you know. So there's this kind of, the inquiry is just this ongoing willingness to look at whatever's happening and to find out. It is finding out for yourself. And of course it is finding out for yourself because it's not just, you know, I put it like this and then somebody adopts what I've said. That's, what good is that? You know, that's just a parrot. The thing is when it opens in someone and they got it themselves and then they've got their own words and then the teacher's not needed. It's
exactly. This is coming here to share. I was reading something that you wrote. I'm not sure I could, maybe I will not quote it correctly, but it goes something like, when you start seeking and you start reading words of others, but you hardly understand those words. And if and when awakening out of nowhere happens, you just know what they mean.
Yeah.
But you know it's, it's like the neediness for someone to speak and you quote to someone, it just drops. You can express with your own words and your own way.
Yeah. And you can feel when something is written from that knowing. That's a magical thing. You can feel it. And you can feel when it's kind of secondhand or it's not, you know, I think anyway. And I just love reading things from people like from the past. And you just think, God, they knew this then, you know. It's the same. They were dressed differently, but they didn't have the internet. But this was the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and the expressing, maybe the expressing with words or with whatever, at least for this character here happens gradually, not at the moment. I hardly speak. I couldn't speak at all about this, at all. Even
Right.
now, I cannot speak much, but yeah, I had this feeling that if I open my mouth to speak, and it is so fragile that it will be lost somehow.
I understand what you mean. That's beautiful. It's like I feel a kind of respect from you for it. You don't want to, yeah, mangle it. Yeah.
You mentioned a few times that you are holding a space maybe for people, or you're together with some other people and share this whatever is this. But do you share with your family, friends? I don't know, with others.
Well, I would say I've just got to get some water. Actually, I'm so
Sure.
thirsty.
Sure.
It's very hot where I am. Hang on a second. I would say I do with others and my family indirectly, because it affects how I am, I guess, but not directly. Because you know you can't talk about this to people who, it sounds insane, doesn't it? I mean, you know that. Yeah. So you know, sometimes I can bridge it a bit by putting it in terms that they would understand. That's quite nice. That can happen sometimes. But I would say I have relationships with different people, like somebody I make music with. He doesn't know that I anything what I'm doing here. And, you know, he doesn't need to know. So my communication with him is not on the surface about this, but my creativity that I share with him and we share together is, you know, I just see it as love. So it's this, you know.
Yeah, it's coming from the same place.
Yeah.
We
But
don't know if this is a place, but yeah.
Yeah. But I can't. Sorry, what did you say? The last thing?
That we didn't know that if this is a place at all. I say that your friend, this person that you share the music, this inspiration or creativity is coming from one place.
Yeah.
Although we cannot say if this is a place at all.
Well, no, we're back to the great mystery, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's like, how, you know, I write a song. How do I know to write the song? I mean, it's like when I was doing picture books. How do you know how to make, you know, I'd have an idea. See if I've got one around here. I'd have an idea. Okay, look at this. Right. Where are we? So this is a cutting from you don't need to read it, but it's a cutting from a newspaper. I can't even remember what it's about. It's about sparrows in Canada. Okay, here's the first line. One day, a sparrow in Canada decided to sing his own tune. I can't even remember what the story was, but it was a real story that I heard, and I just thought, I had the same feeling that I used to get when I wrote picture books of like, there's a book in that, there's a story in that. I can't even remember what happened next, but it had a feeling. Like, why do I have that sixth sense? How do I know that? And how, you know, it's just, that's the mystery to me. But I know it's there and it's part of my joy. You know, maybe one day that will become a book. I don't know. Maybe it won't. But it's up there as an icon that maybe it could do. I've forgotten what the question was. Was there a question?
Yeah. Do you share with the
That's it. Yeah.
family?
Yes. So I felt when I was doing picture books, I was sharing this in the form of, I mean, how beautiful to work with young children who's, you know, some of them whose personalities hasn't even developed yet. So they're still expressing a lot of the natural state. I mean, what a privilege that is. And then when I wrote, I had to write from that place, and I had to see the world through through child's eyes, because that's what makes a good picture book for a child, because you've got to, like, symbolically, you know, when you talk to kids and you kind of kneel down so you're their level, so you're not threatening to them and you're in their world. It's like you have to do that in writing. You have to see the world in a way that they could, only with the advantage of being an adult and being able to shape a good story and stuff. So so even then, back then, I feel I was sharing this in a way. But sharing this directly there's something very special in that, I think. Something, because it's a connection between people, you know, like we haven't even met, but there's a connection that can come from it that is so special and so deep. Yeah, there's something special about that.
Yeah, even now, I have this feeling that it's not the first time that I sit here and talk to you.
Mm.
We are not like strangers that met for the first time. There is some I don't know, quality. Maybe it's not the right word, but there is something.
Yeah.
There is this. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
nice. It's nice. Hmm.
I agree. I agree. Mm.
Did you follow any particular teacher or guru or practice?
Not practice.
Because
Well, I was with Rajneesh, who was Osho, who became Osho for a while, but way back in the 80s. Not for long, but a while. And there were practices there, dynamic and Kundalini meditation that you kind of did. None of that led to this. I can say that. I mean, you can always say, well, you don't know. It was a stepping stone.
Sure, but yeah.
But nothing directly like, oh, I got this from them and that led to this. It's nothing like that. You know, you can see what can go wrong in those situations.
Yeah, eventually, sometimes you need more time to see that nothing, that it's not going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I checked out, you know, the landscape was very different back then. There were a few really big teachers, gurus, and that was it. You know, there was Darfi John, there was Rajneesh, there was Krishnamurti, and, you know, they were the main ones, really. I'm sure there's a few others, but Mahesh Yogi. And now it's, here am I. Now there is, you know, hundreds of us. And it's very different. It's been democratized, hasn't it?
No, it's total mess.
Pardon?
Total mess is now. Total mess.
Now it's a total mess, yeah. All the information is out there now, and everyone knows everything, and everyone doesn't know everything. It's very easy to look like you know everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And very easy to learn some, you know, some important quotes or phrases, and you just tell them like a parrot, like you say.
Yeah, it's interesting that it's very easy, it seems, to get lost in this spiritual world. You know, there's lots of dead ends. There's lots of potential dead ends, and there's I would say the personality also is happy to get lost because it doesn't want to go all the way. You know, so it's happy to adopt a spiritual personality and hide there. Now, I'm not saying that's conscious in any way, but that, you know, there's plenty of books out of people who followed Amma or whoever, you know, and kind of got lost in someone else's story, and it didn't deliver them to their own fruition, as it were. And, you know, in the book, I have a chapter about this and cults and how it's easy for this whole thing to derail and go wrong, and for spiritual personalities to live out their, you know, their fucked upness, basically, and other people to be pulled into it. So it's a lesson from both sides. I mean, the teacher, I would say mostly never learns, because that's their psychology, they're narcissistic, whatever. But the students often either don't learn and stay in it for ages, or have a kind of revelation and it teaches them a big thing that moves them forward, and they get expelled or they leave, and then they go deeper beyond that level. It's a kind of childish level, you know, in a way, to see someone as a parental figure like that. Is that being hard? I don't know.
Agree, totally.
Yeah.
Even here the experience was like this, not for decades, for 2 or 3 years maybe. Yeah, I was out of nowhere, something pulled me towards something. I was seeking something. I didn't know what I was seeking for. Maybe for everyone it's like this. I'm not so unique. No one is so unique. So I was looking for something, and a video pops up in YouTube in a particular teacher, guru, and I was drawn by this. Eventually leads me to I visit one in person, one retreat, and then with some friends we create a group. And I see now that this is also is something like you hold on for, because I have a group now. You see, we make gatherings and something is happening here, and but this also dropped.
Yeah.
I like when you say childish. Yeah, in a way it's childish.
Yeah, I mean,
it's sweet.
Yeah, but what we're talking about is, you know, it's what it is. It's fine, and you get lost, and people take advantage of you or whatever.
And then you stop when it stops when it stops. No one.
Yeah, but I would say that this does take a kind of maturity in this area, and I think, you know, what's at the heart of that? The heart of that is realizing you know, you're on your own. Nobody else can do it for you. So that's, I think, a real relationship between a teacher and a student is a very sacred thing. But I mean, only if it's between someone who's had the shift and the student. Otherwise, it can become the opposite, become hellish and manipulative, obviously, because there's so many opportunities. It's just built for that, for a narcissistic type. But if that isn't operating, something very special can happen, and it takes enormous trust and honesty and integrity, and I'm not talking about an integrity, you know, I would say in the shift, integrity is part of it. It's not something you do, it's just this, because you don't lie to yourself, you can't lie to others, you know. So the idea of taking advantage of someone, it just wouldn't arise, because so this is what I mean by maturity. This journey takes maturity, because you have to look with honesty at what this is and what your life is, what your personality is. And that takes honesty, like, so you're not fooling yourself. This is what I mean by choiceless awareness. It's looking, the personality wants to look away from what it doesn't want to see to maintain its world and its dream. So this dream of the personality has to be kind of, the spell of it has to be broken. And what breaks it is seeing with a capital S. That's choiceless awareness. So choiceless awareness doesn't choose what it wants to look at. It will look at whatever is in front of it. And we come with this when we're kids. And waking up involves, I was going to say learning. You don't really learn it. You just kind of wake it up in you. And that light of that awareness falls on this story and this person. And it's like that's a certain maturity in that, because then it also takes balls, because you'll see things you don't want to see. It's hard. You can't go into spiritual fantasies to escape the hard bits. You face the hard bits, you know. And who said there shouldn't be hard bits? That's life, right? You know. So it takes a certain maturity, I think. And when I see that end of spirituality, it does seem quite childish in a way, you know, because otherwise you wouldn't know. The teacher should be teaching these things. The teacher shouldn't be creating dependency. It should be the opposite. It should be the opposite. Because the opposite is what waking up is. So,
totally agree. Absolutely, yeah. There is a saying that is coming in my mind, like when the student is ready, the teacher appears. The second part is even more important. I don't know, important maybe. When the student is really, really ready, the teacher disappears.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Did you come up with that?
I don't know. Maybe in a way, yeah.
I don't think the teacher has to disappear, but he may disappear in that role. Because if the role is served its purpose, it's like once the birth has happened, the midwife is not needed in that role, but she still may stay around as a friend. You see what I mean?
Yeah, so absolutely true. And something more is coming, like you just stop seeing someone as like there is no authority, there is no superiority. Look, he or she, where is he or where is she, and where am I? There's nothing like this anymore.
But the thing is, Luchana, it's like, once again, I'm always looking at the opposites and the full picture. And there can be a kind of authority. And in a sense there is, because if the shift has happened, you are seeing life in a certain way. And if it hasn't happened, you're not seeing it in that way. So on this subject alone, there is a kind of authority. So the thing is not that there isn't an authority, and like if someone knows more than me on whatever it is, I'll bow down to it. It's not really the person, it's the knowledge that is known. And I think in this relationship, that's why trust is so important, because there is a bowing down to, there's nothing wrong with authority. It just means somebody knows something. And if you don't know something, you shouldn't be teaching. So a lot of people say, oh, I'm not a teacher, I'm not a teacher. It's like, well, I am a teacher. I have to accept that. But I don't have the claims that people put on that. I'm fulfilling that role, but I know it's not me. And I'm not being disingenuous or anything. It's just that's part of what the shift is, part of what the shift knows, you know. But I also don't walk away from the fact that, what am I saying? I do have something to share. And like I said, if I didn't, I shouldn't be in this role. So I acknowledge that. And if somebody comes and they're ready, they acknowledge that too. And because they acknowledge it and they open to it, something can happen. Now, if somebody fought that, they wouldn't be able to use it, you see. But of course, that whole sacred dynamic has been screwed up by people taking this role, but then abusing it. Because there's so much trust needed in that, okay, you're coming to me, you have to open to certain things, but I'm not going to abuse your openness. My only function here is to help you see this. Yeah.
Yeah.
A bird.
Yeah, these are not the birds, but some insects.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure how, a cicada or something.
Yeah.
Cicada?
Yeah.
We are joking here that this is the sound of summer.
Yeah. It's their legs, isn't it? Making that sound.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the legs. What would you say to those who are seeking? There are people who will watch this video maybe, and some of them are still seeking something. They're not content with what they are having at the moment. And Would you like to say something to those?
Well, the seeking that can come from the personality, right? And that seeking that makes the personality feel comfortable and safe. So as we touched on earlier, you could be a kind of follower of a guru, and that's a kind of seeking, and you're stuck in it, and you're actually stagnating. You're not finding your own understanding of it. So that's the kind of expression of seeking that's going nowhere, that's giving someone else authority. And that's why seeking gets a bad name for things like that. But there's seeking, which is really the expression of the yearning, what I would call the yearning, which is the heartfelt feeling of wanting to come home and return to what we knew as children. So for me, that's utterly an intelligent thing to do. If you want something and you know it's there, you don't know how it's there, you don't know why you know, but you feel and you trust that, then to seek it is a natural thing to do. So I think seeking gets a very bad name for those reasons. But seeking with that adult attitude is a necessary part to finding. Now, I know it's got a bad name also because I suppose I'm expounding on what I said earlier, that seeking can be the avoidance of finding. Like, I get that. So it's got a bad name. But once again, I feel with these things, you have to dig down to what's in the relative level, what's really going on here. There's a time when you need to find out things. You know, if you don't want to just rely on a kind of opening happening by chance, if you want to really return to this, there is a kind of journey to find it. And if you can find someone who can help you do that, you know, you could call it seeking if you want, I suppose. But that's, to me, the real seeking. Yeah. But it's funny how it's got a bad name, hasn't it? It's really become a dirty word now. I'll give up seeking. Well, yeah, give up seeking when you're found. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't seek. I certainly don't seek. That's for sure. But I would be if this hadn't happened. And I did. I did everything I could. I mean, throughout the breakdown, throughout my life, I wrote. So whatever was happening, or if I had an opening or something bad happen, my way of inquiry was through writing. What does this mean? Why did I feel that? Why did that upset me so much? Why? I've had this feeling before. Where did that come from? And there's this thing that you start to see the whole story of your life, and there's a sort of objectivity to it, and that's the choiceless awareness kind of doing its job, really. But yeah, I was seeking. Yeah. But you see, when the breakdown happened for me, I left that world totally, not because I'd found, but because I was dealing with this breakdown and I was trying to survive. It became irrelevant, really. You know, none of it, well, I can't say none of it helped me, but I just left that world. So after I wrote my books, I'd been out of this world for many years. I didn't know what people were reading, what teachers were out there, what was happening. My world was, you know, Osho and Darfi John and Krishnamurti and Uji Krishnamurti a bit, and the old guys, you know. So it's funny, when the books came out, I had to kind of tiptoe back into the water. What's happening out there? And it's interesting how it's changed. Yeah. So seeking.
Yeah, that was the most beautiful description of seeking that I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful way.
I think we have to honor seeking in the right, you know. This is why I was thinking I don't really fit on this channel, because
it became a bad word, you know, seeker or seeking.
Yeah, yes, it really has. Yeah, and this is part of the new landscape. It didn't used to be like that. Yeah, and some of what's come in this new landscape is good. You know, a lot of it's informed by you know, what I would call the absolutists and the Tony Parsonsists and all of that. So some of it's got, you know, truth in it, but it's also kind of morphed into something like a monster, I think, this non-duality thing. I think people get very confused with it. And I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the confusion is a good sign.
Why's that? Why is that, Luchana?
Why the confusion is a good sign?
Yeah.
Because when you are confused, you just start looking at your beliefs, maybe, I don't know. And you just, yeah. It's like someone slapped you on your face.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, what is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, this is my point of view, and it doesn't matter. Wow, it's been an hour. Can you guess?
That's it. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I feel like I've almost been sitting on the beach with you.
Really?
Yeah, a bit, with the sounds and I can see the waves. Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Are you on an island?
Yes.
Which one?
Tassos. It's close to Bulgaria. A small island, Tassos.
Oh, yeah.
Close to Thessaloniki, but it is not so close. 100 kilometers.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Are you there for the summer then?
Yeah.
Lovely.
Oh. So can you, we have 1-2 minutes maybe left. Something about your meetings. Are they regular, monthly, weekly? Maybe all the information is on your website, which will be posted in the description of the video, but you can share some words about it.
Okay. Yeah, we meet once a week, and they're very organic. It's not like we have a subject and right, this week I'm going to talk about this. Literally, often it will begin with silence, and then it's life. It's like nobody knows where we're going in the next hour and a quarter. What's going to happen? Where are we going to go? What we're going to say? What we're going to reveal? Who knows? But because of that, and because of the openness, there's an energy field of openness and trust, because the people have been coming a while now. So that's beautiful, because something builds up. You get to know the other people. And I think within the safety of that, people feel they can kind of share more and travel further. And it's good to have other people around who are doing the same as you, really looking at your life. So often a theme kind of arises. You know, somebody says something and then that makes me say something, and then somebody else brings their. So it's a lovely thing, because it's real human experience feeding into this thing. And for me, it's all raw material that reflects back on what I'm sharing. So I'm sort of guiding it in a way, but because my job is to bring it back to finding life beyond personality, that's the point of it. In the meantime, there's sort of friendship and sharing and a lot of love going around. So that's what happens. So, yeah.
Sounds beautiful.
Yeah, so we meet once a week, and we have sort of 7-week series, and then a break, and then another one. And there's a messenger group, so within the week people can share and stuff as well. So I could send you details, and maybe you put on the end.
Yeah. Or this information is not on your website, or maybe someone can reach you from the website, and you can send me, of course.
Or Facebook. Facebook would be good. Yeah, it's all there. Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
It has for me too. Yeah.
After this break that I make, maybe 1 month, actually, few weeks, maybe, I don't know. It's good to back again with you.
That'll be nice. Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe we will have the opportunity to speak again. Who knows? Maybe I will join one of your meetings. I would love to.
Yeah. Yeah. we'll see what happens. Lovely to meet you anyway.
Same here.
Thanks, Luchana.